Hello and welcome to The Woman's Show, a show for women about the things that matter most to women. I'm Melody Perry in the studio with my good friends and co-hosts
Monica Senecal
and Kim Stonecipher-Fisher, and we are so excited to have in the studio today Bryn and Bailey Stansberry, who are two young entrepreneurs about ready to launch a new company. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Now, when you said too young, was that TWO or TOO? Because they look very young to be entrepreneurs.
Very young, and we need to explain to our audience, too, that they are also twins. Mm-hmm. Yes. So it's real hard to distinguish which one of you is going to be talking. So, Bryn, say something to us.
Hi, everyone.
And Bailey?
We're so glad to be here.
They sound exactly alike. There's no way to distinguish that.
It's tough.
So tell us about the company you're about ready to launch.
Well, the name of the company is TwoAlity, and why we picked TwoAlity is because we are twins. TwoAlity actually means the condition of being two. So we're very excited that our company represents who we are as people and who we are moving forward with our brand.
Well, your brand is absolutely amazing, and I wish we had TV at this point in time. So you have designed basically a clear galosh is all I can think of.
Right. Yeah. We just call it a transparent boot with interchangeable liners. And the idea came to us in high school, and we've been working on it since then. We're 22 now and just graduated from Columbia College.
I was going to say last week in high school because you look really, really young.
Did you go to Rockbridge or Hickman?
We went to Moberly High School.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we actually went to Moberly Area Technical Center as well. And we had all of our business classes over there and participated in DECA. And that's where we started to compete in business competitions and then had the idea and move forward from there.
So is this a DECA project for you?
Yes, it was. Okay. We were supposed to be an advertising campaign, and our advisor said obviously compete as a team because that's what we've done all of our lives, and we enjoy it. And we just asked ourselves, what is it we love and how can we make it better? And at the time, we loved our rain boots. And our mom would always buy us these really colorful socks, like from Gap. You might see a Gap. And we always were disappointed that no one could see our socks. And we thought, how can we make our rain boots more versatile and have those fun patterns? So this is where the transparent boot with interchangeable liners came to be.
Now, obviously, when this was a DECA project, it was all in your mind, and it was obviously really cool in your mind. But how did it come from being an idea to being an actual physical boot that's right here in front of me with different patterns inside?
We went through our, what we call the homemade prototype. We made it in our mom and dad's kitchen. And so we took regular sheet plastic, made somewhat of a pattern that would look like a sewing pattern, and actually pieced it together and glued it together, and like a child's boot. Right. And we still have those, which I don't know how they made it, but they're holding on. Yeah. And so we went from there and then began to discuss how to protect our idea with our DECA advisor. And she came up with a patent. Her husband had been through the patenting process. So she, hooked us up with our patent lawyer and the drafter and things like that. So we began that process our senior year of high school. Really, she started to emphasize protecting it after we were using that little visual aid with our DECA judges. They gave us such great feedback. And she started to realize, hey, people are really catching on to this idea. Right. It's something you guys want to protect.
Absolutely.
And that's when she told us about that, we went and approached our parents. And they were willing to back us financially. But our dad always says that we have to stand on our own 4 feet. And he said, we'll back you, but this is something you guys are going to have to do yourselves because that's part of the learning process.
Right.
And so it was important to have them there for that support and allow us to protect our idea.
Now, as far as your entrepreneurial skill, desire, are your parents in business for themselves?
Yes. They are.
That happens a lot.
So too.
Yeah. Our dad and our mom, along with our dad's brother and his wife, own Premier Paper and Packaging. Yeah. And actually, it's a really cool story because they'll be the ones distributing our boots. So that's very exciting for us. That's right here in Columbia. And, they already are a paper distributor. And we said, can you distribute boots? And they said, yes, we can. We'll make it happen.
Okay, so coming up with a prototype is one thing, but now the thought of actually mass producing it is quite another. So how are you finding a vendor and what are you hoping to do with that?
We actually started right after the patent process. We got that when we were 19. We started to realize, can we really do this? We made it in a kitchen, but can we take it to a mass scale? And so we did that first prototyping stage, what we call our production level prototype. We went from there and that started to show manufacturers to take us seriously, that it could be done. And so we started actually overseas, even though we didn't want to. And we had 3 different manufacturers overseas show us their product. And we didn't like it at all. They smelled bad. One glowed in the dark, which was not supposed to happen.
Bryn makes fun of me still today. I started crying. I was like, this is so disappointing. You know, we worked so hard to get to that point.
Right.
But really what it did was it lit a fire under us to try and produce them in the United States. And that's when our mom is like Google master. She can find anything on the internet. And we said, Mom, we need help finding someone in the United States that can make these boots. Well, she found 2 injection molding companies in North America that can make the boots, only 1 in the United States.
Wow.
And so what we did was she found their contact information. We sent them an email, and they didn't respond. And so 3 days later, we were getting anxious, and we thought, we should just call them and see what happens. So we call them, and their secretary says, "Oh, you're the boot gals." And we looked at each other and said, well, why didn't they email us back?
Right. Yeah.
But, you know, push comes to shove. They get us to the head of manufacturing, and we have a 30-minute conversation with him about what we've learned and what it takes to make the boots.
Right.
And by the end of it, he just says, who you really need to talk to is the CEO of the company. He's going to make the final decision. And so we said, okay, and we gave him our information for the CEO to get a hold of us. And Bryn and I just sat back and thought, you know, maybe he'll get back to us when he can. 5 minutes later.
Wow.
Yeah. We were so excited. And he said, I'd love to have a conference call with you guys on Monday. And so we did that. We built a really strong business relationship with him and his team. And now he's our exclusive boot manufacturer in the United States.
So he makes which part of it?
He makes the boot and that comfort insert that we showed you guys.
Right.
Okay.
So the liner has nothing to do with the group in California. That's what we're still working on, nailing down. And Bryn kind of knows more about the liner process than I do. But we're working right now with 2 different supply chains. One goes through Mexico and comes back to us, and one is all Missouri made. And so that's the one we really want to happen.
Sure.
And we're just kind of sitting, waiting. They've got to work through the sample process and cost things out, and then we'll know.
Okay, so to describe the liners a little bit, you brought 2 different prototypes in with you. You know, we're dealing with an acrylic boot, so obviously you can see through it, depending on what you want to wear that day. One of them has in it a green and navy pattern quilted liner, and the other one has a darling pink and orange and yellow and white quilted liner. So how many different colors potentially could you do this in?
Well, actually, we're going to start with our own custom fabrics. And why we did that is because we want women to, 1, pick, and 2, that when they pick their fabric, it's not going to be, they're going to go to Walmart and see the same thing.
Right.
So we've already started designing our own fabric, custom fabrics. And so right now we have 6, a potential 7th if we do one color scheme twice but switched, if that makes any sense. So right now that's what we'll start with, and then we'll roll them out seasonally. So we stay on the trends. So spring 2013 we have a book. We make sure we're on the color trends for this season. Then we go into the next one and we make sure we're on those as well. And we also look at our consumer. You know, if eventually consumers are really loving the pinks and they want us to do a breast cancer one, we'd be up for that. Or anything along that line.
Our long-term goal is to get into some licensing and have Mizzou liners, a Cardinals liner, a breast cancer liner, whatever it might be. So we see the possibilities as endless. Our thing is how do we narrow it down? Where do we start? You know?
Right.
And so that's why we're starting with adults, and then we're going to expand into the children's line, and then expand into licensing and kind of really grow from there.
We're talking to Bryn and Bailey Stansberry about their new startup company, TwoAlity's, and their acrylic boots.
Your target audience then is what, women 24 to 46, or?
I'd say women, teens,
Yes.
up into 46. I think that's where the liners come in. These could work for anyone, as long as you make sure you're making liners for the teens, then you're making liners for the college girl who's stomping across campus, and then you're making them for the 46s that age as well. So you've got to maybe play some traditional in there or whatever that may be. But that's how we're going to be able to reach into all of those markets at once.
And you visualize the inside, the liner being like something they could buy several of.
Absolutely.
So you can have your own, like, to coordinate.
The interchangeability and the individual style is what we see as one of the key attributes to the product.
Right, you actually buy them separately. The boot comes by itself, clear, nothing in it, so that the woman can choose her very first liner. Maybe she doesn't want a bright pattern, so she picks black.
Right.
Or maybe she really does want a bright pattern, and so she'll pick the pink and yellow.
We didn't want to force a pattern on anybody to start because vendors, that can kind of be disappointing. So we wanted to make sure that they had that individual style right off the bat.
Okay.
So when you talked about a startup and how you're going to do this, eventually you're going to start with e-commerce, and you're going to start with an online website where people are going to be able to order, and you'll fill orders. But you also talked about something really exciting, going to Las Vegas.
Right. We have attended the Las Vegas Shoe Show. We did that last year. And why we did that was to see if there was anything on the market like our product. Yes, we had the patent, but was anybody doing transparency or interchangeability? And so we learned a lot at that show. But we also plan in the future to attend that same show to catch the attention of vendors, whether that be a Dillard's or a Macy's, or small boutiques. We are not opposed to that whatsoever. We think that actually be a really great outlet for us. And then also, if we could co-brand with our boot supplier, we'd be going into Amazon and QVC and those kind of outlets. But, that is the difference between wholesaling a product and going direct sales. So we have to balance that out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys with your energy and your cuteness on QVC, I don't know that you guys have the ability to mass produce that amount. You guys it would be crazy.
So are you thinking about going to the show as a vendor and actually setting up a booth, or are you going to,
Potentially. I think it'll just be how we start. We've even talked about, some gals have approached us about having trunk shows to start. And we thought that'd be a great way to control our growth. Because every international footwear group that we've talked with has said your problem's going to be controlling your growth.
Absolutely.
People are going to catch on, and then it's going to start small and go boom very quickly. And that's a great way for us to control that and to not be overwhelmed by that growth.
Well, it sounds like you've got, a really good approach to it, and that you're taking the right steps to get to where you want to be. I think this is going to be huge. I know that, was it Lindsay Phillips? Was it the switch flops? That was they were like flip flops, and you could change out the bands, and women love that. I mean, we get bored really quickly with stuff. So I think that being able to change it up, I think that's going to be a big selling point for you guys.
Absolutely. Our biggest frustration was when you go to the store, you can either pick a very plain black or brown, or something so crazy out there that it goes with one or two outfits, maybe.
Yeah.
And that was why we love the versatility behind the boot, because you don't have that issue.
Right.
You can get a plain black liner, but you can also get a very fun neon pink liner, and it's not a problem. It's just very interchangeable.
Right.
Versatile.
Yeah.
And washable.
Right.
Washable.
And in the winter, the insulation in the center changes. So it also can be worn as a snow boot as well.
So snow, rain, and muck, all three.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's great. So
I wouldn't wear those in the muck, though. They're too pretty.
They'll hose right off, I promise.
They're actually made out of considered medical grade plastic. So we don't have any issues with yellowing. That was a big concern of ours. We said if a gal wears this out in the sun, we don't want her to have a yellow boot after
crack.
crack or scratch. And so that was something that was important to us, quality. And we found that with this manufacturer in the United States.
Right.
Wow. That's amazing. So when you started showing the prototype to the CEO, his attitude was, we can take this and,
It's really interesting. We've had to build a lot of our relationships over the phone with these people.
Yeah.
So we would send him pictures, and then in our conference call, we'd say, pull this up. And so we had to convince him to work with us via
we had
email
not
and
met
phone
him
calls.
in person still.
So when
to
he
this
first
day.
saw it,
Skype, you guys.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Whenever we first talked to him and he went through, okay, can we do this or can we not as their manufacturer, our boots actually would get stuck in the mold. And why that was happening is because they were removing the barrier that's normally permanent in their boots, because we wanted ours to be clear. And they'd get stuck. And so we had to develop a release agent to get our boots out. We were at such a high rejection rate that he said, we can't do this. We said, we've got one idea. We'll see if this works. And it worked. And we did
We
it.
refer to it as like our Pam.
I was
our
just
boot.
going to say, just spray Pam on there.
Skillet. It's
Right.
just like a skillet. And Pam is that barrier to get your food out. We had to find a barrier to get our boots out of the mold. And we did.
Right.
Well, we've been talking to Brennan Bayless, Stansbury. Thank you so much for joining us. These young entrepreneurs have started a new company called TwoAlity. When they're ready to launch it a little bit later in the spring, we'll have them back again to talk to us about the launch.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You're listening to The Woman's Show.
Soft Rock 101.5 KPLA.